Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This one's different. This one's a little bit different because, yes, Stellantis is doing more layoffs. More and more layoffs, and more layoffs to come. And more cuts as promised by Carlos Tavares, the CEO. But what was wild today was, while I was just doing a little research and reading, and I'm very interested in this stuff, and I like to kind of dig into companies and see what they're doing, another story pops up on my feed, and it's about Stellantis dropping $55 million, investing $55 million into a company called Archer Aviation. And the way they explained it, or the way they the article was written, was it was an additional $55 million. So I had to dig a little bit deeper and found that so far with stock purchases and investments into this company, Stellantis has put close to $200 million into this company. So then I thought, man, how much money does Stellantis have? I know I looked it up before, but I couldn't remember. So I went and dug a little bit deeper, and they're sitting on like $60 billion as of last year. Now, that means that they can go a very, very long time losing money, as long as they're making some money. So they can't lose all their money, but they can lose some every single year, and that's kind of what I think is going to be happening coming real soon. But they've got so much cash on hand that they can go drop $200 million on this Archer Aviation. But what in the hell is Archer Aviation? So I just got to say, they're laying off all these people in the U.S., saying goodbye, and the Warren truck plant, it was like 1,600 people, and they're saying, look, we're going down to one shift, and I know they're calling some of it temporary, and more layoffs to come in other parts of the company. So yeah, that's sad, that's unfortunate, and it's just horrible because no cars are selling. And then I heard today that on Car Edge, that now they're coming out with incentives of, I think it's 0% financing for 84 months on a Hornet, on a Dodge Hornet. Talk about desperation. And I guess verify this yourself, but they're going to give the dealers like $3,000 extra incentive for them to sell these things to guarantee that they don't lose money, meaning they can go ahead and discount the prices down. So if you want a really good deal on a really goofy car, go get yourself a Hornet. Yes, the reports out there are not good about their software issues and the lack of cargo space and performance and all the other stuff, and the fact that it's an Alfa Romeo Tonale. But if you're looking for something cheap and you want to get a great deal and you don't want to pay any interest, go check at your local Dodge dealership, and I'm sure they'll have a few Dodge Hornets available for you to buy. But while all that's happening, we've got the other hand over here of Stellantis going, hey, hope nobody notices, or maybe they hope everybody does notice. We're going to go ahead and shovel another $55 million after another $150 million they've sent to Archer Aviation. But what is this company? So I started to read about it, and I started to watch videos. Went to the YouTube.
We finally beat Medicare.
And I went to their YouTube channel, which strangely only has 14,000 followers, which you would think this is one of the most revolutionary things to ever hit aviation and transportation, that more people would be interested in it. But what we're finding with a lot of these companies, just like Fisker, is they get all this hype, but it's underwhelming in the end, and Fisker ends up going bankrupt. And the whole electric, push is just ultra ridiculous, especially considering that 60%, I read this today, 60% of the US's electricity comes from fossil fuels. And then I went and dug, what about globally? And it's another 60%. But guess where another 20% comes from? Another 20% of the electricity comes from nuclear. So if the environmentalists are worried about gasoline, just wait till you have a problem with your nuclear plants. Now, I got no problem. If we could do it safely, that's cool. But when you're talking 80% is from other stuff other than wind and solar and all this other crap, that the, water power and all this other stuff, then we're so far away from being able to have mass adoption of electric cars. It just can't happen. I believe they're an option. People can have them, but they are absolutely not something that's going to replace. If they did, it would just crush the grid. We'd have to burn through so many fossil fuels just to keep enough electricity on hand to charge those cars. So now Stellantis is stepping up to heavily, I believe they are the biggest investor, heavily invest in what they call the electric vertical takeoff and landing system, which is basically a blend between a helicopter and an airplane. It'll take off vertically and fly like an airplane, and they can go places, let's say that it would normally take an hour or an hour and a half. I don't know if it'll go that far, but let's just say it would take an hour. They can knock it out in 10 or 15 minutes. But beyond that, because of weight, because of battery life, because of range issues, these have to be short flights. We're talking about, you know, maybe across a short body of water in Alaska or something. This is not something that's going to replace a real helicopter or a real airplane burning fossil fuels, because they can't carry enough batteries without making that thing so heavy that it would never take off. So they've got to come up with something that is just for short hops, and then charge again, and then hop again. Well, I think it's brilliant, and I was an air traffic controller. I was into aviation for 4 years of my life. I sat behind a scope. I controlled airplanes. I worked in the tower a few days a month, and I know how busy the skies are. And let me tell you, one thing, people go, why don't you like flying? I go, I think I know too much. I think I spent 4 years in the Air Force in a radar approach control with like 4 or 5 civilian airports in my airspace and large airports surrounding me, like Memphis, Tennessee, and some other ones, that I knew there was so much stuff in the sky, so much aluminum in the sky, that it blew my mind that we were able to keep these things apart. Well, now they're going to come out with this thing and fly at shorter distances, and what they're talking about is building, at first, like 650 of these things a year. That's a lot. And then building up to many, many thousands per year, to where these become the most prolific way of getting around in short distances. For example, I want to leave my house and I want to go 50 miles away to LA. That is generally in an afternoon. It's a 2-hour trip. So maybe more, because traffic's so horrible. In this case, I could literally go to one of these little takeoff places. Because it's electric, it's not going to make the sounds that big airplanes will, so they probably won't have as many restrictions. Jump on that thing, they'll carry 4 people plus a pilot, and then fly to LA, have a wonderful dinner, and fly back. It sounds awesome, and I'm not going to bash it, because if they could figure that out, who wouldn't love that? But here's the only issue, and I looked into this back when there was this, I think it's still around, this blade thing that you got the app, and it was like Uber for helicopters. And I remember landing in New York City and thinking, you know what, traffic's crazy in New York. I'm going to go on here and try to get a helicopter. Just see how much it would cost. I mean, at that point, I was so tired that if it cost me $1,000 to get a helicopter just to take me to my hotel in New York City, I would do it. At that point, I would do it. And I was way priced out. It was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. At that point, I was like, this is rich people stuff. So I'll tell you, they're investing in something that is not going to help the common man. It's not even going to help wealthy, semi-wealthy people, or well-off people, or even upper middle class people. I'm talking about when they have 4 seats in one of these things, and it can go one way, and it has to recharge again, and then fly somebody back. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive to keep in the air and to keep running. And but the thing is they're really, really close to getting approvals to be able to put these things into use. I would say that the way it's looking right now, they're maybe a year and a half or 2 years or sooner away from maybe launching a market with these things. And I'll tell you what it's gonna be. It's going to be for rich people. It's going to be another one of those, I hope I'm wrong, but it's going to be another one of those things where if you got $4,000 or $5,000, you can go to LA in 10 minutes. And if you don't, you're sitting in the freeway with me, driving all the way to LA. It's like when my buddy Tarek, who he sends me a text one day and he says, you know, he's made it huge. If you ever watch Flip or Flop, he's a dear friend of mine, way before he was famous. He gets famous, gets wealthy. I was always the guy with plenty of money, and he wasn't. And then suddenly he was the one with all the money in the world. He texts me one day and says, hey man, you want to go to Vegas with us? We're going to take a private jet, a jet suite jet. And I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's go. And he goes, okay, cool. It's $1,000 each one way, and another $1,000 each coming home. And I was like, have fun in Vegas, brother. I'm not doing that. I'm not going. And then I started looking up jet suite crashes, and I talked myself out of it. I was like, nah, man, if I go, I'll meet you guys there. I'll do it in 4 hours in my car, and I'll have a much more fun trip. But nevertheless, this is a rich person thing. Stellantis is investing in it, and they're investing for the long term is what it looks like. But I would say there's also a huge chance that this does not survive. It does not make it, because putting things in the sky where we already have a very busy, very crowded sky, all it takes is one accident. One family gets taken out getting one of these short flights because the batteries died, and I'm sure they'll have a parachute or some kind of safety devices, and they don't make it. The rest of us are going to be like, nah, we're not going to go on that thing. We'll pass. We're good. Regular airplanes, been proven well beyond, well, before I was even born. But this stuff, it'll be interesting. But that's where Stellantis is spending their money. If it takes a battery, if it's electric, Stellantis is all in. If it takes a gas engine, they're kind of halfway in. They're like, I got to do it because our company will go out of business if we don't. So I just thought that was interesting. Thought I'd share it with you all, that this is the future they're trying to create. And one thing that I do think is good is that Archer Aviation is building their factory in, I think it's Covington, Georgia, so in the U.S., but we know that if Stellantis has any say in this thing down the road, that they'll figure out how to move everything out of the U.S. at some point. But as of right now, Archer Aviation is going to be an American company with an American plant, but it's electric stuff. So more batteries, more drain on the infrastructure, and more risk when it comes to glitches. We already got to worry about the electric cars catching on fire. Certainly don't want to be in one of those flying things with a bunch of batteries, but, you know, maybe I'm just an old guy that isn't down for the progress. Give me something with an engine in it and a parachute, and I'm good to go. With that, everybody, hope this was as interesting to you as it was to me. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.